So is there any hope for the Democratic Party, or do we need to somehow constitute a third party that can be competitive on the national stage in time for the midterms? Because my comments of any video where I am critical of the Democratic establishment, my comments on those videos are full of people who are like, I unregistered as a Democrat. This is why we need to vote independent. This is why I'll never vote for the Dems again. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm very critical of the Democratic Party, but we do have a two-party system in the US, and building a functional third party would require starting from the ground up. You would have to start very local and build that momentum and build those candidates and then level up to a bigger and bigger stage. We can't just suddenly, in the course of a few months, put together a third party that would have a viable congressional or Senate candidate, much less a presidential candidate. Like, that is an unbelievably heavy lift. It's not realistic, much less to like have candidates in every state from that party. It's a pipe dream, y'all. Now, we could have a whole other conversation about whether we need to get rid of the Electoral College. I would say yes. I'm with Jamie Raskin on that one. About whether we need ranked choice voting. I am a big fan of ranked choice voting. Here in Portland, we, the people, had an initiative put on the ballot, and we overwhelmingly said, heck yes, we want ranked choice voting. And it worked out very, very well in our last city council elections. I am definitely a big fan. Ranked choice voting would allow for there to be other parties on the national stage. But I will forever be somebody who votes for harm reduction when it really matters. And that means I am not going to throw away my vote on a candidate who is going to get 1.5%, 2.5%, not even 5% of the vote in an election where every vote counts. And the options are establishment or slightly progressive Democrat and literal fascist who wants to kill millions of people. I'm going to vote for the person that, like, I don't love, but they actually believe in the dignity of human lives. They actually have progressive values, and they actually don't want to destroy this country. Are they going to make progress on all the things that I personally want? No, but like the choice is obvious, right? It's night and day. But does that mean that we shouldn't push for third parties on the local level? No, I'm a big fan of the Working Families Party. They caucus with the Democrats. I would love to see the ideals of the Working Families Party get more attention, but do I think that they are a party that can put forth a viable cohort of candidates in time for the midterms? No. In time for the next presidential election? Absolutely not. And let me read out this comment really quickly. I keep forgetting that for folks who are visually impaired, their program doesn't read out these text boxes on TikTok. So I need to be consistent about reading them out loud. Okay. I said in reply to somebody else, but we have a two-party system. They were saying like, oh, we need to somehow get a third-party candidate up and running. And I said, there are loads of progressive Democrats. I think we need a Democrat Tea Party takeover of the party. I don't mean, okay, so I posted this on Blue Sky and someone really, really misunderstood. I don't mean we should turn the Democratic Party into the Republican version of the Tea Party. That's not what I meant. I don't want Sarah Palin running the Democratic Party. That's not what I'm advocating for. What I'm advocating for is, do we need a popular movement to push out the establishment Democrats and have a party that represents what the people want? Now, you could say, okay, well, the Tea Party was, a bunch of astroturfing, and you could say there were powerful players behind the scenes who had their own agenda. That's fine. But the Tea Party successfully took over the Republican Party, made it into the party that they wanted. Now, did they implement all kinds of horrible policies and get us on the road to fascism? Yes. So that's not what I'm saying that the Democrats should do. I'm saying we have had political turnover in our parties since the beginning of the country. Right, Republicans love to talk about how Abraham Lincoln was a Republican, right? The parties have all gone through phases of evolution and upheaval over the years. I mean, we've had parties in the US rise to tremendous heights of power and then completely go extinct. For example, the Whig Party. We had 4 Whig presidents, and that party went away in the 1850s. So I personally think we're at this moment in history where there are a tremendous amount of progressive Democrats. I think the Progressive Caucus in Congress has almost 100 members. We're seeing this jockeying for power, this wrestling that's happening amongst the Democrats, where the establishment that are funded by the super wealthy, by corporate interest, by foreign interest like AIPAC, they have this wealth and this historical grip on power, but they are absolutely getting demolished in the approval ratings, right? Like 22%. And Chuck Schumer's even worse. I forget if it's like 12 or 17% is his approval rating. And yet we have these young dynamic progressives. They're not all young, but a lot of them are dynamic progressives who want things like campaign finance reform. They want dark money out of our politics. They want to overturn Citizens United. They want things like universal health care. They want to raise the minimum wage. They are for things like the Green New Deal. They want a party that serves the working class, and they want the billionaires to be taxed appropriately. That group of Democrats is almost like a completely different party from the establishment Democrats, right? One cohort of the Democratic Party is all about protecting corporate interest and consolidating wealth and power, and they don't seem that different from the Republicans, or at least traditional Republicans, in that regard. Yes, there are policy differences, but overall, a lot of working class Americans have a lot of resentment toward the super wealthy Democrats like Nancy Pelosi, like Chuck Schumer. They see their behavior as hypocritical, and they see them as not really any different than Republicans. Meanwhile, progressive members of the party have a very appealing message that speaks both to Democrats in the working class, but also to those independent swing voters and to Republicans in the working class as well. Republicans who may have believed the lie of Donald Trump that he cares about the working class, and they're starting to realize, like, actually, that guy doesn't give two shits about us. But then they don't really want to pivot to the Democratic Party because they're like, obviously the Democrats don't care about us either. We didn't feel that we were prospering under Joe Biden. We felt like we were getting screwed over by corporations, by billionaires under Joe Biden. So like Democrats don't really offer a different compelling narrative. They don't have a different vision for America. But the progressive Democrats, they really, really do. And so I guess I'm wondering whether it would be more efficient, more effective, and create a more compelling narrative, a better vision for America that would appeal to a huge coalition, a broad base of voters, to have those progressives be able to kind of seize the day a little bit with the Democratic Party and be able to either promote the evolution or retrofit or reform or whatever term you want to use of the Democratic Party into something different than what the establishment and all of their wealthy donors have sought to make that party, not significantly distinguishable from Republicans. So I guess that's my question. Is that the way that the Democratic Party saves itself and secures a win in the midterms? Is that all of these rich, comfortable motherfuckers who've been in Congress for ages and ages, and all of their wealthy donors say, you know what, we love our power, we love our money, but like our democracy, our way of life is on the line. And we're going to have to step back and relinquish power to the folks in the party that have a message that resonates with voters, that will get voters to turn out. Because right now we have folks like Chuck Schumer that are just like holding on for dear life, willing to put their own power and their own wealth and their own corporate interest above the future of this country. They are willing to hold on to a failing plan rather than hand over the reins to folks who can fix the situation, rather than hand over the reins to folks who have a compelling message, a compelling vision that will rally the voters. So what would it look like to have a popular movement that elevates those progressives in the Democratic Party? Because right now, the establishment Democrats, they're trying to beat them down as hard as they can, right? We have heard that whenever there are progressive Democrats who speak up and do things that their constituents are like, yes, please, more of this, that leadership like Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer scold them, chastise them, threaten to take them out of their committee seats. They want to enact punishment. Like there is definitely some strong arming, the threats that are going on behind the scenes. Whenever progressive Democrats do things that their constituents want, do things that are pro-democracy, they stand up and they fight, and then the leadership is like, you do that again and I will punish you. Don't step out of line. Don't piss off our corporate donors. Don't try to make this into a bigger deal than we are. But it already is that big of a deal, right? Like Chuck Schumer's like, maybe we'll be in a constitutional crisis sometime. We have been there, we are there, and we need to fight, and we need fighters in the Democratic Party. Fighters who understand what the working class people want, who understand where the values of the Democratic Party should lie, how to have integrity in those values, and what kind of change we need to protect us from falling into this kind of authoritarian backsliding again. What would that look like? Do you think that that is a better ask, a more realistic ask than trying to make a third party viable on the national level?